Hey, I'm Paul Morgan. I'm the Managing Director of Go Industrial, and today we're having a look at a bulk lubricants facility that we've supplied and installed for Coates Hire at Eagle Farm in Brisbane. This facility was channeled through our CEA Petroleum channel to market. CEA has an in-depth national relationship with Coates, and we've complemented the CEA offer by also including petroleum equipment as part of the overall CEA offer to market. Coates had a compliance challenge with storing and dispensing from semi-bulk, and I call semi-bulk around about those 1,000 litre IBCs of oil. When you're using oil in a workshop environment, you've got a couple of different pack sizes that you can work with. 20 litres in smaller workshops, 200 litre drums or 205 litre drums are quite common in smaller to medium workshops. And then you step from the 205 litre drum up to 1,000 litre IBC for medium size to largest size operations. At the top of that tree, you then move into true bulk, where the oil company will actually come along and deliver bulk lubricants into your operation. IBCs are pretty practical. They're at a reasonable price point for a semi-bulk supply, but you've got to store them and you've got to have some method of dispensing from them that's compliant, practical and safe. What you see here is a Bunded IBC rack that we've designed and fabricated within Go. This facility is made for up to 4 of 1,000 litre IBCs. Commonly what's used in a workshop environment, the higher flow or the higher usage lubricants are engine oil, hydraulic oil, and then at times coolant. This facility is set up for engine oil and 2 grades of hydraulic oil, 46 and 32. The concept being that when the IBCs are emptied, a forklift comes along and empties them out, couples and decouples down there at the IBC connection point, and it's a swap and go idea, and the IBCs are returned back to the lubricant supplier where they're recycled through an IBC flow. You'll notice that we've specified and we've fitted Donaldson trap breathers. Every litre of liquid taken out of an IBC introduces a litre of air, and scanning around this yard environment, you've got dust everywhere, and being in Brisbane, the environment's extremely humid. So constantly without any form of filtration, you're actually introducing dust and you're introducing moisture, water to your lubricants, neither of which are helpful when you're trying to actually prolong the life of your equipment. These Donaldson breathers, we change them out once a year during a site servicing process, and that's generally adequate for this style of workshop. You'll see on the rear side of this bulk IBC storage facility that we've rear mounted Graco LD series 5-to-1 pumps. Each of these pump stations are fitted with a filter regulator lubricator to ensure that we've actually got regulated compressed air coming into each of the pumps, and we're lubricating that air to extend the life of these pumps. These are points of maintenance, so once a year when we come on site, we'll actually dewater the filter regulator lubricator, and we'll ensure that there's sufficient oil in there to continue lubricating the pumps when they're in action. We also specify a safety relief valve, so if there's some sort of deadheading and a build-up of pressure in the dispensing system, we actually relieve that back into the suction and ultimately relieve back into the IBC, so you don't have the risk of over-pressurizing the downstream dispensing of the oil. You'll see coming into the bottom of the pumps is our suction. That's connected to the bottom outlet of each of the IBCs. That's a much neater way of interacting with an IBC than trying to have some type of spear mechanism going through the top. Everything we run is 316 stainless steel, and we've got a mixture of stainless welded pipework, as well as we then move into our press fit stainless steel pipework as we dispense this into a reticulation system in the workshop. What you're looking at here is one of our box 2.25 2,250 litre self-bunded tanks. This tank's been configured for waste oil storage and then waste oil evacuation from the site. So we're at the sort of back end of the process, but you'll notice up on the wall that the waste oil from the workshop actually comes through this piping system and is filled down here at the back end of the tank. What's important to note here is we've actually developed a simple go, no-go alarm. So site knows if the tank is green, then the capacity is fine. If the indicator goes to red, then they've got to do something about emptying it. We give them a couple of stages of capacity. So we have a a red signal, but then it will show at a red flashing light at 80%, and then at 90% it'll show another red flashing light, and it'll actually let off an audible alarm that the tank needs to be emptied. The tank features an evacuation point with a suction spear, so the oil company or the waste oil contractor can come on site and actually evacuate this easily and safely. This is a Store 5.5 self-funded tank, bulk storage and dispensing of diesel. Coates hire yards Australia-wide have the need to replenish diesel fuel and equipment that's returned from hire, and the Store 5.5 is perfect for a busy, tight spaced hire yard. You can see the footprint's only 1.1 metres wide. The tank itself's 3 metres long, and we pick up the volume in the height. Quite a simple setup. It's a 240 volt, 100 litre a minute Pusey made in Italy pump, and we push that through a filter, mechanical meter, and a hose mast with 10 metres reach. So site can be flexible in terms of where they park the equipment. There's plenty of radius here to actually access the equipment and replenish that. Coates have opted for a nice, simple recording system. Coates have got a book within the tank, and the fuel dispensed is actually noted by asset number, job number, and that's then assigned to jobs when the book actually goes back up in the office and jobs are finalised. You'll notice we've fitted a Donaldson trap filter up onto the top of the tank. That's filtering the air entering the tank when you're dispensing diesel. Again, every litre of diesel that's dispensed brings in a litre of air. This environment is terrible. There is dust everywhere. So the humidity is a particular problem. At night, that moist air will actually condensate in the tank. That moisture will sit on the inner roof of the primary tank, and that water will actually drop down into the diesel, can lead to the formation then of bacteria and algae between the water and the diesel layer in the tank. So the Donaldson breather actually removes moisture, removes particulate from air entering the tank. When the tank's being filled by the oil company, that air being expelled from the tank actually dries the filter element and actually pushes out the particulate. So you get this self-generation process happening. Generally, again, we replace these every 12 months. We do have a safety bypass, so God forbid if it did block, the tank can still vent correctly, and there is a visual indicator that will go red if it does sense that the actual filter's blocked. Okay, what I'd like to cover here is the waste oil evacuation system that we've designed and installed for Coates at Eagle Farm. We've got two methods of collecting waste oil from the workshop. Firstly, integrated into our hose reel stand, we've actually got a bund sump assembly, 316 stainless steel mesh on top. That's an area where the workshop guys can come along and actually pour waste oil in, or they can simply fit engine filters and drain that over a period of time. You'll notice up on top here, there's a whole range of paraphernalia from the workshop that's sitting there quite neat and tidy, but just draining into the bund. We have a Graco diaphragm pump configured to actually pull that waste oil out of the sump and push it to our bulk waste oil tank located just on the other side of the wall here. Secondly, we've actually got a drum evacuation spear. So by using this ball valve, that will actually allow this spear to be taken out, put into a drum, and actually evacuate that oil from any mobile storage container and push that back into the bulk waste oil tank. We've integrated semi-bulk grease storage and dispensing also into the Coates Eagle Farm facility. Grease is always a really grubby part of a workshop operation. We've been able to move Coates from just using cartridges to actually using 18 kilo pails of grease, and that's been integrated on a Bunded housing, and we've got a Graco LD series 50-to-1 air operated grease pump and follower system that the guys in the workshop can simply just replace and bring in new pails of grease as they're required. The grease is reticulated through a hose reel, so greasing, you have a 15-meter radius from the hose reel stand, and access to clean, tidy greasing infrastructure is in place to help improve the overall operation of the workshop. The project scope required us to design and fabricate a customised hose reel stand and dispensing facility for the site. The specification was to provide for 2 different lubricants and a spare. So we allowed for an engine oil and a hydraulic oil. They've been installed with laser engraved plates to identify each of the liquids. Coates have now added a third hydraulic oil as the spare, and Coates have just put into place a quick texture-written product label. In addition, we had to allow for an air hose reel coming from the Atlas Copco compressor that we supplied, and lastly a grease hose reel that we covered earlier when we talked about bulk grease. The hose reel stand is heavy duty. We found it quite cost effective to fabricate this in our own workshop. We can manufacture it the exact size needed for the workshop and provide that little bit of extra space for expansion over time. The hose reel stand includes the waste oil drainage sump and 316 stainless steel perforated mesh, and that ensures you don't end up with filters lying around the place, and you're maximising the evacuation of oil out of all that equipment. So when it is thrown in the bin, it's considered to be a hazardous waste, but it's not full of oil. Part of our scope of works was to design, specify, supply and install a full air reticulation system also for the Eagle Farm Coates workshop. You'll notice in the background we ran a whole heap of press fit blue compressed air piping throughout the workshop. That needed fantastic Coates working at height equipment. Our team did a really good job of making sure we did a nice neat installation, testing and commissioning of that compressed air system. At Go, through our CEA channel to market and our iFuel channel to market, we're well set up to design, supply, commission, install and maintain workshop infrastructure. Be it a small drum system for a car workshop, right through to a complex bulk storage and dispensing system in a mine. Go and our team have got the capabilities to deliver for you guys.